Good afternoon. It's Thursday, 8:31. Okay, let's see if this is working. Today is 8:31. It's noon, a little after. I apologize for that. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's technology. So, hey, I want to share my screen because I want to talk about something in particular. Okay, let's see if this is working. Today is 8:31. It's noon, a little after. I apologize for that. I'm not sure where I'm getting the feedback, but so, hey, I want to share. So here we go. We need to talk about Medicare today. At least that was my topic. And so here's the screen I wanted to share with you. Look, I'm so tired of these commercials out there that make us think because we're 65, we're ignorant or uneducated, or we've forgotten everything we've ever needed to know about life. So, we're getting them out there, makes us all look like we're climbing mountains or riding bikes or swimming or whatever it is. And most of us, or a lot of us, are still working. So what does Medicare do for us? And what is it really? So let's talk about Part A. Part A happens to be the hospital insurance. And the first thing on the screen that I'm sharing with you shows that there's no premium. And that's really kind of a joke because we've only been paying for it for as long as we've been working. But now we have no more premiums if we retire and take Part A. So there we go. If we continue to work, we'll continue to pay Part A premiums. It's called the Social Security deduction. That's 7.5% we pay. And of course, our employer pays 7.5%. So there's 15%. But what is Part A? Part A is hospital. Let's think about it as room and board. It is strictly that. You go in a hospital, they're going to pay for the hospital, they're going to pay for some nursing, they're going to pay for rehabilitation in a skilled nursing facility if you need skilled nursing facility there. It'll pay for home care if it's for rehabilitation and there's a medical plan put out there for that, written by a doctor and administered by the doctor. So that's Part A. Part A, you have a deductible, and that's $1,600 for 2023. So for the first time you go in for every benefit period. Now, let me explain the benefit period. I'm going to highlight that so you can read that as I'm talking about it. January 1, I have a heart attack and I go in the hospital and I'm there for 3 days or whatever. And then I go through rehabilitation and the doctor says, you're good, go home, enjoy life. And for the next 60 days, I'm good. But on day 61, I have another heart attack. That's another benefit period. Well, let's back up a minute. On February 17th, I have diverticulitis attack, and I'm in the hospital again. That is another benefit period. You can have as many benefit periods in a given year with Medicare as you can have ailments. And each one, because they're not the same as the last one, is a new one. And if you are released, you have 60 days. 60 days from that day, you're still in that benefit period. So I have my heart attack January 1st, and on January 30th, I have another one. I'm still under that same benefit period. I'm readmitted to the hospital. I don't have to pay that $1,600 again. But you can have as many of those as absolutely possible. Now, next week, I'm going to talk a bit more about the Medicare Advantage and the Medicare supplements, not necessarily in that order. I want to say this, as far as Medicare Advantage goes, they treat this differently. We'll talk about that next week. So that's Part A. And as you can see, there's inpatient stays. You're guaranteed 60 days every year. And then of hospitalization per benefit period. So how many of those you got? You got 360. You could have as many as you want. or many as you need. And then if you're in the hospital more than 60 days per an occurrence, there's a daily charge. So again, Medicare Advantages cover it different than Medicare supplements. We'll talk about those differences. But there's a copay, and then there's this thing called a lifetime reserve days 91 through 150, where you get to pay $800 a day to stay in the hospital. But that's if you're in there for one thing. Like, I don't know. I have never figured out who in the world is in the hospital for 150 days at a time, unless they're on life support. Now, Part B is considered medical insurance. I want to put this out here and so that everybody kind of understands my stance on this. When you're looking at Medicare, all of a sudden, they think we need to know everything there is possible to know about how Medicare covers everything. Last time I checked, there was over 10,000 medical codes used for Medicare to pay a bill. There is no way I'll ever know all of them. There's no way I'll ever know part of them. But if you have the Medicare and You handbook, it has a pretty good glimpse of how they categorize things. The real thing is, we've gone 30 or 40 years in working, and none of us really understood how your major medical worked, but it worked, and that's pretty good. But now we think they want us to think we need to know everything there is to know about Medicare before we make a decision on how we want to go forward with our coverage and retirement. Now there's Part B. Part B is $164.90 a month. That's our premium. Every one of us gets to pay that or more, depending on our income. What does Part B cover? Part B covers medical. That means doctor. That means x-rays. That means medical tests. Even medical apparatus is covered under Part B. So what does that do? So for $226, I have an annual deductible that once I pay that, they pay basically 80% of the rest. Now, again, what is the rest? That's doctor, that's his office, that's, medical, that's blood tests, that's x-rays, that's anything else. Even in the hospital, if they're doing x-rays or they're giving you treatment, that's going to be covered under Part B. Part A, Part B, pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we want to make this confusing because then we're going to add in Part D. Guys, that's the easiest one to remember. D stands for drugs. There's a lot to Part D, and each plan varies a little bit. There are a lot of standardizations to it. It is meant to help us keep down the cost of our drugs in our retirement. And again, Medicare Advantage covers it different than a Medicare supplement. Medicare supplement doesn't cover it at all. You have to have a Part D drug plan separate. So there's choices and considerations to make. Now, the one thing I didn't mention is if you don't sign up for Medicare Part B in time when you're first due, you can pay an additional 10% for every year you wait to sign up. And if you don't sign up when you're ready, then you have to wait till the next year to sign up or the next enrollment period. If you don't sign up for your Part D when you're first eligible, well, then it's 1% a month for as many months as you wait. And that's based on the average. It's 1% of the average premium Medicare for a Medicare Part D plan. This year, I believe it's like $47 is the average plan. So where's the big holes here? The big holes come in with things like cancer treatment. Part B cost, that's most of your medical, you can see it pays 80-20, right? 20% of that. If it's administered in the hospital, it's covered a little different, but typically chemotherapy and things of that nature are outpatient, and it's covered at an 80-20 because it's considered a Part B drug. Well, there's a big hole. The other one is in this rehabilitation part. Now that's Part A, kind of Part B, because they don't want you in a nursing home anymore. They want you in to go home, come back. I mean, even a hip replacement, they have you up and walking within hours of the surgery. And then they say, well, come back tomorrow for more therapy. So listen, I don't know what happened today, but something weird. Again, technology, you never know about that. So how that's supposed to work sometimes, I guess. But the basics are the basics. We can sit here and we can make them as complicated as we want, or we can just get past the complicated, let's confuse you commercials, which really don't talk about what they do. They talk about how we're going to confuse you. You know, it's the old saying, I can dazzle you with brilliance, or I can baffle you with BS. I prefer just to give you the information. I'm 65. I had to make this decision here recently myself, and it's coming on time for what we call Medicare open enrollment period. Wow, technology. Anyways, this has been Coffee with Ralph. I'm Ralph Gale. Remember, coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute phone call with me. Next week, I'm going to dig into the Medicare Advantage side of things. So we have a 30,000 foot view of that as well, because each one of those plans are a little different as well. So listen, I am sorry about the delay today, and it did cut us a little short. I had a little bit more time planned here, but with that being said, I want to wish you a great week, and I'll see you next week.